Hospital Port as pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to HPANWO TV and welcome to this, the 47th comments reply video. This is the 47th time where I make a video replying to your comments. The reason I do this is because I feel obliged to reply to you when you make a comment or criticism or feedback of any kind on my videos. All my videos have open comment sections, so you can just, anyone is free to come and reply to them. However, I don't have time to do this by text. It's just too much of a job. So doing the comments reply videos allows me to reply to you, and it takes less time. But you know, also, you see, I quite enjoy doing them. They're also quite fun, and most of you guys enjoy watching them. I know some of you watch them all the way through. Now, these videos tend to be very, very long. In fact, the reply to comments videos are some of the longest videos I've ever made. However, they are getting shorter, first, because I'm doing them more often, and also I'll probably do like two-parters more than I used to. If they go over 3 hours, for example, I'll have two-parters rather than my current rule is if they go over 4 hours, I have two-parters. So this one may well be a two-parter, what you're watching right now. But some of you might be watching this if you're new to the channel and thinking, oh, well, come on, I only want to reply to one comment. I'm not going to watch a 9-hour video, or however long it is, just to get a reply to one comment. Well, guess what, guys? You don't have to. Because underneath the comment I'm replying to, I'll leave a little reply with a timestamp. It goes, thanks for your comment. It will be answered approximately within, and I tell you which hour of the upcoming comments reply video it is. First, second, third, etc. So the longest you will have to wait is about an hour. That's not so bad, is it? So, you may notice things are slightly different as I've got a new webcam, which hopefully is better quality, although if it may take longer to process when I'm editing the video, which is that's not so good. But not to worry, it gives you a slightly better view of my little chamber here, my little inner sanctum in which resides my entire world. Well, no doubt there'll be comments about some of the furniture, more than there has been already. You know, yellow bucket, bungle, and things like that is now going to expand into lots of other comments, no doubt, about the things in my room. But anyway, let us begin. So where are we? So, first comment. I'm starting from the last comments. This is on the last comments reply to video. Reply to comments 46. Darren Retro, I hope you're bearing up okay, Ben. Oh, thanks, Darren. I'll probably just, you know, and hi, Sonoris Ashtray. Thank you very much. I probably will not put comments on this. I know what this is about. This is about Gareth, and I mean, people have left me so many very supportive messages about Gareth that I don't really need to put an actual comment in for you. But Sonoris Ashtray, Darren Retro, thank you very much. I am bearing up okay. I went to Gareth's memorial service last week, which was very poignant. I didn't film anything. Matthew Williams filmed it, by the way, and it is on his channel. I've put a link on her HPANWO Voice blog. I also tell you a little bit about the event as well. Jock of Ages says, my thoughts are with you, Ben. Sorry to hear about your friend. Look forward to some more content. All the best, mate. As you get a love heart for that. Hatchy says, on reply to comments 46, Ben, I've not recovered from Jim Mars being told, he told us a decade ago. What happened now? Lol, unbelievable. And, yeah, well, you know, he was one of the most cleverest, I think, most level-headed people within our community. I very much miss him, actually. And he died about 3 or 4 years ago now. I put a big obituary on HPANWO Voice about him. Gary Robinson says, I met him in Del Rio, Texas a few years before he died. Nice bloke, and his wife was very accommodating to all the people who bombarded him. I was lucky enough to get a photo with him as well. Hey Gary, that's great. I'm glad you got to meet Jim. I never got to meet him, unfortunately. I'm just checking. I'm just going to recheck the view, actually, because there's some things in here I don't want you to see. No, I think you're all right. But it's better quality, wouldn't you say? Much better quality webcam, I think. So that's... just always double check that, because if I get that wrong, I'll have to convert this to audio, which won't be much fun. True Seekers Northeast 7, off duty. Trevor Murray, was that the lead singer from the 90s band House of Pain? Oh, Trevor Murray's my co-host on Third World Radio. I don't know. I know he's an Irish-American guy. I was talking about, I think I mentioned the band Black 47, which is a Irish rebel band from New York City. I think it might have come out of that, Trevor. I know that House of Pain are Irish American band. They're not rebel, really. I don't think they're very rebellious. I mean, they have lots of videos, St. Patrick's Day and things, but they're not a rebellious. They're not like a rebel band. Trevor says here on Truth Seekers Northeast 7 off duty. This is why I promote the right to bear arms. Here in Canada, the government is fighting hard to take our guns. They certainly are, aren't they? Well, Justine Castro wants, all these consequences for if you don't even get the V word, isn't it? Same video, Trevor Murray. Holy shit, the guy in the sunglasses is fucking awesome. I think he could rally the troops to fight even if we were outnumbered 10-1. Oh, that's Sir Mark Steele. Yeah, I know he's a controversial figure, but I'm glad you like that bit. I'm glad you like that bit, Trevor. Gary Robinson says here, hey Ben, mate, in regards to our chat about woke, Gina Carano was fired by Lucasfilm for refusing to add pronouns to her Twitter bio and posting a picture of the Second World War. Her days with Lucasfilm were numbered from day one, as leftist spies were instructed to follow her around on set, looking for reasons to have her cancelled. All right. Yeah, that's nasty when they do that. It's a kind of it's like the offence archaeology thing. But if you don't say something offensive, they'll just go through your old tweets and old social media posts to see if you said anything like 10 years ago. This has been done to me, incidentally. As for Doctor Who, Overlord DVD has reported Jodie Whittaker's jumped ship. He also says the woke Star Trek producers have been dropped by their network in the USA. There's a new movement recommending people cancel their streaming services, monthly bills, and use gift cards in order to show Netflix, etc. They're not prepared to pay for woke content. Cheers, Gary. This is really an interesting situation because there's an immovable force. There's an immovable object attacking an irresistible force right now, aren't they? Yeah, the irresistible force is the woke agenda. The immovable object is the simple fact that these companies have shareholders and they want paying. The reason they buy shares in things such as Lucasfilm, such as the various other Hollywood productions, Paramount, etc., is because they want to. It's because they want to make money off the films. Making money means the only way films make money is if people buy things. They buy cinema tickets, they buy streaming services, they buy DVDs, etc. Not so much DVDs nowadays, but streaming services, etc. And if people don't do that, eventually the shareholders are going to put pressure on the producers. And this is the situation we're in right now. Now, the BBC is slightly different because the BBC, to its disgrace, is state-funded. It's owned by the government, and unfortunately, they give it money no matter what. But it could be that. So with the BBC, I don't know what's happening. But Jodie Whittaker she's done 2 series, or is it 3 series now as Doctor Who? They usually run for about 2 or 3 seasons now, and then they just go. I mean, the days of Tom Baker being in it for like 10 years are over now. I mean, Tom Baker was the Doctor when I was a little kiddie, because he was there, and it was quite a shock when he disappeared and Peter Davison came in, because I hadn't seen a change of Doctor Who within my lifetime at that point. Other people who've been watching the show since the beginning, like my parents, they were used to different Doctors, because this was the like the 4th Doctor changing to the 5th. But I didn't know that. These days, of course, that happen. So Jodie Whittaker probably, I didn't imagine she'd last long. Especially, I mean, it could be that simply the even despite the fact the BBC is state funded, something's going on. The fact that the fans hate it so much. In fact, they've been, a lot of fat Doctor Who Whovians, they call them. Even like Capaldi, they said when Matt Smith were rubbish. I didn't like Matt Smith or Capaldi. I thought the late Tennant went bad, but it went downhill towards the end. Christopher Eccleston was really good. So I think we are going to see, hopefully, unless Jodie Whittaker's simply getting out of the way because she's fed up of all these horrible little squits who keep writing to us saying, you're a white woman, so they want like a black woman instead. That could be what they do next, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, the idea of people cancelling Netflix and cancelling streaming services, that's a good idea. It really is. Star Trek is also in big trouble right now because it's insulting its core audience base, that is men. There's a horrible feminist undertone to Star Trek. They're making there's this lot of men who act like it's like the old adverts, the gravy adverts. Oh, what we got for dinner today, dear? They got this really stupid bloke in there, and it's really awful. And he keeps all the women, all the Mary Sues keep like taking the mickey out of him. Say more about that nearer the time. Oh, Gary Robertson, Doomcock, it's Overlord DVD. Right, he's explained now, because I was going to ask, who is Overlord DVD? And it's actually Doomcock. What a brilliant name. What a brilliant name, Doomcock. Charles from Project Camelot. Watch out, folks. Ben has gone warrior mode. I defy you, Richard D. Hall. A pox on you and all your heathen kin. Ben, you go, my son. Love it. Yeah. I did say, look, I just say, because everyone is now on Richard's hit list. If I'm ever on your hit list, Richard, all right, I'm talking Richard D. Hall now. Don't say anything online. Just contact me privately. I'm serious. What I say I'm serious about. Just contact me privately, and we'll meet up and have a little gentlemanly discussion about the matter. I just can't do this internet bitching. I just can't. It's just sickening. It's beneath me. It's beneath you. If you really are going to get some idea into your head that I'm working for MI5, all the usual stuff you go on about, just don't say anything online. Just contact me privately, okay? Good man. Reply to comments 46, Louis James. Great video, Ben, and views. Oh, by the way, all the others I've just read out are reply to comments 46. Your content and views are very much like the late, great Gareth. We'll watch them all. Keep it up. Oh, thanks, Louis. Thank you very much. Louis or Louis, it's written in the French way. Yeah. I just got to put a notice in there for Charles from Project Camelot. Yeah, I mean, I'm really pleased you think I'm like Gareth. I mean, that's praise indeed. TCN said on reply to comments 46, I'm trying to think of something to say so I could be the 11th. Not bad, fair enough. You reach the 11th, What is it they say? Everyone's a winner. You get a medal for being 11th. Gunther Haas says on reply to comments 46, I tried to find Gareth's orbit and it took me to a page on Reddit. So sad. So obit, sorry. I tried to find Garen's obituary and it took me to a page on Reddit. So sad. Some people said some nasty things about him there. We live in such a cruel, sad world. Yeah, I've actually deleted a couple of comments. I mean, I'm not going to delete all of them. Some of them went a bit beyond. I'm willing to engage in debate with polite people, but there's limits. I'm like I say, Andrew Johnson's behaviour over in our crane, that was over the limit. Other people here, it's over the limit. They just disappear from my worldview if that happens. The skeptics are sort of things. The skeptics are like that. Steve071 says on the same video, thanks for that attempted detour on regional accents, Ben. All right. I must have tried to imitate a few people on that video. Hugo Rune, hello. Many thanks for all your and others here comments, Remy and Cannabis. That's right, 5 minutes onwards. Many thanks to all. I look forward to chatting you on this some more. I've had a brain scan which concludes there is general wear and tear on blood vessels, but nothing else abnormal, so very unlikely I have epilepsy. Well, I'm glad you've had that sorted out, Hugo, because I know you were a bit worried because you were talking about that. But yeah, I'd love to get you on HPANWO show. I'm just trying to round up a few new guests, so I'll be in touch with you about that very shortly. I've got someone for this week, and then hopefully someone for next week, and I'll be in touch with you around about that time. Same video, Ravenhill Forest Bandit. Hey Ben, how are you? A bit off topic. Right, it's a comments reply video, Ravenhill. There's no off topic on those. But I recently bought all the complete series of Allo Allo on DVD. Did you ever watch this series, and what did you think of it? I did, and I thought it was very good. It's from the same team that brought us Heidi High, which is another really good comedy, very classic British comedy. It's a historical comedy series set in occupied France in World War II, and it's a laugh a minute. Very politically incorrect too, I should point out, which is another reason for liking it. You probably couldn't make it today, actually. You probably wouldn't be allowed. Steve mumbling. I started already. Reply to comments 46. We live in very different worlds, Ben. I know, Steve. I don't work for 2 to 3 hours a day and then return to a small subterranean box and spend the rest of my day filling my head with complete rubbish on the internet. I have a full-time job, sometimes with extended hours, sometimes in remote areas. I have a call-out roster, so I'm not available every weekend. I'm also busy most weekends. As I've said before, I don't want my real email address spread among the woo-woos. I'll get around to sorting out a disposable email address and Skype account. When I do, I'll contact you. Remember, too, you hid behind Sugrin for over a year, so you can't reasonably read more. Expect me to drop everything and come running. All right, Steve. Well, take your time. Take your time, mate. It's not no rush, but it doesn't take long to sort out a real email account. As for me, you don't seem to know much about me. For example, I don't work 2 to 3 hours a day. I usually work longer than that. It depends. I'm self-employed. I have a full-time job, just like you, and sometimes I work basically 7 days a week. Not all day, every day, luckily, but I do. I don't often have no work at all for a 24-hour period. I'm also I get called out too sometimes. So there. I'm flexible with time, if you are. But you know, as for my small subterranean box, this is not subterranean. It's actually semi-subterranean actually, but it's not a basement. It's actually a ground floor. Although on one side of the building there's like there's like a staircase, and it's kind of there's like a mound, so it's kind of subterranean. But no, it's not a subterranean box either. Sure, it's not very big, but it's got enough for all my stuff. John Nolan says, look forward to you and Ben having a debate. Me too. Charles from Project Camelot. Yeah, Steve. Never put your real contact details out there under any circumstances. It won't it won't end well. Believe me, I know. Now, honestly, I would keep any. If Steve did send me his usual email and Skype account, I would keep those things confidential. Absolutely, but if he wants to set up a secondary account, that's very easy to do. You can do it in 5 minutes. David Smith, no need for a debate. Just find a local skeptic event and go and do a talk, Steve. Then claim everything you said was true. Job done. Oh, well, that's actually not a bad idea. I don't know if there's a skeptics in a pub where Steve lives. I mean, there are about half a dozen in Australia, I think. I know they're all over the world now. I would go along. The problem is I live too far away. But there's a skeptics in a pub in Oxford which I attend, which has begun reholding meetings, so I'll have to go to one of those. Steve mumbling to David Smith. To even consider that possibility that I could be wrong is just ludicrous. I know you think that, Steve. But David Smith, I would take his advice, you know, Steve. You don't have to be alone, you know, as a skeptic. There is a skeptic community, just like there is a woo-woo community. David Smith says to Steve mumbling, here's the thing, Steve. If you're a skeptic, then you need to back up your disbelief with well-reasoned arguments, rational thought processes, and good evidence using the scientific method. If you believe in woo, the claims are the evidence. No, not true. Firstly, if you're a skeptic, well, David, I don't have to really respond to you again. You've probably seen my skeptic videos. I've done like about 4 of them now. They all really cover the same sort of information, but some of them have more than others. You know that what you say, if you believe in woo, the claims to the evidence, that's not true. And well-reasoned arguments and rational thought processes and good evidence using the scientific method are not always practiced by skeptics, as I demonstrate in my videos on the subject. I specifically recommend the most recent one I did, which is the Truth Seekers Northeast 5. And indeed, my last skeptics one I did a skeptic one for on HPANWO Radio. It was basically a recording of the one I did for East Anglia UFO Group. Ed Kaler says in reply to comments 46, good stream. Thanks, Ed. It's not actually a stream, but glad you enjoyed it. Dr. Keith says on the same video, YouTube has been deleting people's comments. It's common knowledge now. Well, it wouldn't surprise me. It's certainly not me, as Steve Mumbling is claiming. I know he's going to go on about that in a minute. Hugo Rune says on the same video, no V word here, not even bothered with a test, not interested. My immune system is strong, colds and flu have never bothered me. Good, nice one, Hugo, absolutely. BZ Garson, but are others? Hugo says to BZ, then those others get the V word, not worry me. They are protected. The un-V worded to me is no danger to them, but surely they could still be carriers and a potential threat to me. Sorry, I feel or fear no threat from this virus. David says to Hugo, some people can't get V'd for medical reasons. You're very much a danger to them, and if your strong immune system ever becomes a problem, you may end up taking up a hospital bed that could have been used to treat someone with a more complex life-threatening issue and couldn't be potentially solved by just getting a couple of injections. Hugo replies to David Smith, I'm sorry, but this V word does not stop you becoming a carrier. So the V'd are as much a danger as the un-V'd as the un-V'd me is to them. I don't even have a cold at the moment. Edit. I wonder if I used my homegrown cannabis protecting me. Just joking. David Smith, Hugo. But it does help prevent taking up a precious hospital bed. As for your cannabis, if it makes you feel better, then use it. All right. This is the herd immunity argument. It's the idea that people have to get V'd even if they to protect the people who can't get V'd or the V's don't work. And it's true. But the thing is, firstly, this is not a V. This is an experimental type of treatment which has actually not been used before. And there is evidence to suggest that people who have the V word can not only carry the C word, either on their body, as in a sense their hands. In fact, there's some studies that suggest people who've had the double J's are lulled into a false sense of security, so that they behave in a way that they wouldn't do otherwise, like avoiding people. I mean, this is what I do. I mean, I am actually taking steps to protect the vulnerable. There's several people in my family and among my friends who I don't visit to protect them. I also, when I'm dealing with my clients, I use hand washing and things like that. Yeah. So yeah, this is just more of this guilt tripping and things like that. There's a massive amount of coercion at the moment. I think it does constitute coercion. No one should be forced into taking any medical treatment. There are strict laws against that. Everything that's done at a hospital, I know this from experience, requires informed consent, which the patient has to give. The only exception is if they're unconscious and things like that after an illness or injury. If you're conscious and you have sound of mind, you have to give consent. Coerced medical treatment is not legal. It's not lawful. It breaks the Nuremberg Code. And indeed, I think what's happening at the moment regarding the C word and the V word in government at the moment does constitute coercion in the legal sense. You know, when Daisy Castro says, if you don't have the V word, there will be consequences. And what is it Biden says? I'm losing patience with these people. Oh, I'm going to make you have it whether you like it or not, or I'm going to make your life unbearable. That's coercion. Lisa, hello, Lisa. The old saddle fits well, Ben. All right, I'm not sure that... I don't know what you're referring to there, but thanks. Woody Black here says on reply to comments 46, some comments are definitely getting deleted. I commented on this vid 3 weeks ago and now it's gone. I definitely posted it because I can see someone liked it in my activity feed. And I reply in text to Woody, I don't know why that is. I rarely delete comments, just those that are abusive. I haven't deleted any of yours for sure. Steve Mumbling thinks I'm deleting his comments, but I'm not. Woody says, well, my comment was just recommending a show called UK Column. Maybe it's too hot for YouTube. Well, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, UK Column, I don't know if they still got a YouTube channel. Let's have a look. I'm curious to find out. Let's have a look. Oh, yeah, it's still there. Goodness me. But how much longer? Oh, their last upload was 3 years ago. I think they've moved on to Alt Tech now. I always watch them on Odyssey. Still working all right, yeah. Okay, guys. Back to the channel comments. Okay. Israel Diego Rivera 2, Genius 2, The Real Genius, said on reply to comments 46, D Hall promoted you on his spaceship. It's the Rich Planet Starship. I was on 2 episodes of that. He didn't promote me, he interviewed me on 2 of the programs. One of them was Program 100, I remember. He's moved on now. I don't think he'd have me back. If he did, I'd probably go if he wanted me to, but I don't think he'd want me to. He's now very much more selective over who he has in his guest chair now. Trevor Murray says on reply to comments 46, remember when the wives and I saw lights in the sky and UFOs when we lived in Calgary? Well, we were sitting out a few nights ago and she said she saw the same UFO in the night sky. Unfortunately, I didn't see him. Oh, right. Okay. Trevor says here, also, as you know, Ben, we're now in southern Ontario. Yeah, I know you've moved, Trevor. That's right. You've moved house and travelled quite a long distance. Well, that's interesting. Try and see if she'll tell you more. If she's told you about a description of the object, that'd be very interesting, Trevor. Also, I recommend she carries a camera when she goes outside. See if she finds anything, you know. Trevor says here, I recommend cannabis and a tincture form. I use THC and CBD in separate bottles. I use indica at night and salvia in the day. Oh, right. Well, I've word with Hugo about that, because he's on your wavelength there, mate. Trevor says, Frank Langrella played Skeletor with superb acting skills. I've heard him playing Skeletor to this day. It was his favourite acting job. Did he do the voice of Skeletor? Yeah, the original He-Man cartoon series was actually pretty good. Yeah, it was. He probably couldn't make it now. It's not. It's because it's based on. It's kind of Robert E. Howard type fantasy, the Masters of the Universe, which is actually quite good. But it's too full of toxic masculinity now, so they can't do it now. BZ Garson says on reply to comments 46, I said to somebody in a previous comment, are you gay or do you hate women? Yeah, you did, yeah. I just got chided by Judge Judy for being too personal and lefty. That's me. I'm Judge Judy. This is formed from a bloke. Oh, here we go. From a bloke who often takes the piss out of Professor Brian Cox in a pantomime gay voice and calls him a closet gay, hypocrisy personified. I thought there'd be a bit of whataboutery in your response, BZ. I do this from a third-party position. I don't do it directly at Cox. I doubt if Cox knows who I am. He doesn't. Certainly, he wouldn't be interested in anything I have to say. So I'm kind of taking the mickey out of him, almost as if he's a kind of fictional character. You were actually addressing someone specifically, and asking this question is a ridiculously loaded and offensive question. I didn't delete the comment. I just said what I thought, because the person you were addressing didn't seem all that bothered. I just thought that was out of order. BZ Girls. Oh, by the way, Cox did actually reply to someone I know. It's the only time he's ever replied. He replied to someone I know, and he said, "Notice to nutters. If you use my personal email account to send me your rubbish, I will be rude to you." Yeah, so that's the only thing he said. So he kind of deserves it, really. I mean, because the person you were addressing, I don't think deserved that. Honestly, if they were some equally aggressive tit, I'd just say go for it. But if they're not, then I would say, just leave them alone. BZ once again. What happened to your prediction that Trump would be back as president in August? This is after you predicted he would return before the inauguration in January, and after he'd be back in the spring, beginning to cotton on to reality yet? Oh, yeah. Well, obviously that didn't happen. I got that wrong, BZ. But you say beginning to cotton on to reality, meaning that everything I said about Trump and Biden and that, everything I said is wrong. Is that what you're claiming? Because I got those particular dates wrong, then everything I've said about the situation, the political situation in the United States, is wrong. That actually is not true. Simply because things don't actually apply on the date when I expect, does not mean that the actual the premise of the whole thing is actually wrong. Dee Dee said, they always move the goalpost. It's attention, not truth they seek. Well, Dee Dee, I'm not doing that. I'm not moving the goalpost. I'm not now saying, all right, well, he'll be back at this time or that time. I'm saying I don't know when he'll be back. If you want me to give you another date, I'll leave it much more open-ended, BZ and DD. I believe that he'll be back before the 2024 election. I think he will return before. He'll be running. I mean, people say he's going to run again in 2024. No, he'll be back before then. I think the whole situation will fall apart between now and then. I really do. I'm just going to change the camera slightly. I think the camera's... Let me just see if I can move it slightly. Let's have a look. How's that? Up slightly. There we go. See, it's got a much wider angle. How's that? That's all right. It just has a far wider angle than the old camera, which is why it's like this. That's not bad. Okay. Dr. Keith says on reply to comments 46, Ben, do you think there are strong similarities between Simon Parkes' Alien Counter and the 1978 film Catch from Outer Space? Oh, that again. The Catch from Outer Space. That, I haven't seen that film since I was a little kid. I'll have to watch it again, Dr. Keith. I'll just have to watch it again because I can't remember. But you see, this is the third time I think someone's mentioned this. I think it might have been you who mentioned it before. I don't know. Now, on the same video, TCN. I'm starting a GoFundMe page for some nappies for Mr. Mumbling. He can't go a week without urinating himself whilst laughing. Yes, PMSL. There you go. It's your own admission, Steve. That's what you say. Charles Scott says on reply to comments 46, Your welcome criticism of my formulae and calculations, which I'm certain stand up to scrutiny to an expert mathematician. If you do receive criticism, I strongly recommend you are getting an expert to verify the maths before drawing any conclusions. I'm happy to challenge any criticism, including any expert. I presume you will treat any criticisms by Charles from Project Camelot with great caution, especially when you should be criticising him for such defamation that brings our reputation into disrepute. As for the first bit, fair enough. As for defamation, Charles, to be fair, you give the other Charles as good as you get. So I'm not gonna come between you and break you up if you're both basically given as good as you get. I mean, if he was like dogpiling you and you were just not, you didn't want it, or you were sort of a little bit more less resilient than you are. If you're a bit less resilient than you are, then I would put a stop to it. But you're not, Charles. You are perfectly capable of defending yourself, and so I'm going to allow you to. Same video, Charles Scott. YouTube has blocked my comment regarding Charles Unleashed, aka Charles from Project Camelot, and I posted the comment along with a screenshot on the Facebook hyperlink found on your reply to comments 45. If you can't approve my comment, which is presumably in your spam folder. All right, it's not in my spam folder, Charles. I actually just checked. I check it regularly now. I checked just before I started shooting this video. It's not there. Reply to this is Truth Seekers Northeast 7. Ed Kaler, Wooville, LMFAO. Wooville, yeah, I just thought it was an idea. Wooville, where the woos can come and live together. Women in ufology, new video. Oh, this is going to be spicy. This is going to be spicy. Paul Armstrong. Women and BAMEs simply aren't interested in UFOs. It's almost exclusively the preserve of middle-aged white men, often socially awkward. Well, not some of us are younger, less socially awkward. Paul. But yeah, it's actually some women and BAMEs are actually interested in UFOs. BAME is black and minority ethnic. They are. It is a minority though, and for reasons I explained, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not an indictment on the subject, or indeed a statement. This is what I call a natural and harmless inequality. But most of them are not. You're right. There are exceptions, but it does seem to gravitate towards more mature, as you say, middle-aged white men. And yes, I mean the thing is, any kind of online activity does tend to attract the introverted, because they probably don't have as wide a circle of as friends in their real life, in meat space, as they say. Whereas a more extroverted person would probably go out seeking more and more people within their own communities, in their local communities. Again, that's not exclusive. I mean, as you know, I'm not socially awkward. I'm capable of socializing with people, including skeptics and people like that. And I do travel, I meet people and things like that. But yeah, it's when you're generalizing, you're correct, Paul. But there are many exceptions. Patrick Patel says on Women in Ufology, thanks for making this video, Ben. You're welcome, Patrick. Glad you like it. Always great to hear your views, he says on the same video. Thanks, Patrick. I'm glad. I mean, I haven't as much aggro from this video as I thought I was going to get. Charles from Project Camelot. Ben, mate, labels mean nothing. It's all about what you do with it. Well, that's actually true, Charles. It is true. The problem is that doesn't mean that you're not going to get some kind of gravity, some kind of people gravitating to. There's a kind of tidal set in one direction to people who you could say have a label. This doesn't mean that people who are not under that label are excluded. I mean, a lot of them thinks they are. A lot of them think they are. This is the myth. This is the myth propagated by people like the person I talked about. This is what Paola Harris has said. That this imbalance, so-called, of the genders is as a result of the exclusion of women, and I can absolutely assure you that's not the case. And indeed, I think it's actually a very, very dangerous idea. It's a very, very pathological delusion, for reasons I explain in the video. TCN says, Russell told me he's non-binary. Russell, I've been calling you he all these years. Should I call you they or ze? Yeah, you can't quite. You could almost see Russell in the frame of this new webcam, actually. Mark Hollingsworth. It's Women in Ufology. Important for you to get this off your chest, Ben, with all the current events. Bottling this up would have made you ill. I think so, actually, Mark. Yeah, it would. Women in Ufology. Diego Rivera. Female aliens do not exist. Sounds like she hit you on the head with a flying saucer. The UFO movement has become woke. Oh, female. Well, aliens, you see, this is a question. I mean, the idea of sex is it's not universal among Earth creatures. There are asexual creatures, and there are creatures that are asexual that reproduce. I think it's called meiosis or mitosis. It's usually very small creatures like bacteria and things. It's called mitosis or meiosis. In other words, they literally produce offspring from their own bodies, which have an identical genetic code. This, unfortunately, it makes evolution a lot more difficult, which is why this is why basic sex evolved. It evolved so that you could actually vary the genes. You get much more mutation, because every single offspring would have a different genetic code, because it would have parents. It would have two parents, which have themselves combined their own genetic code into their offspring. It's a very clever idea, which evolved on Earth. It's likely that something like that has evolved on other planets, but it may be different. It may be there are three. For example, there could be 3 sexes rather than 2. So offspring are created, for example, on some planets by 2, 3 organisms coming together and then having intercourse of whatever kind to produce a third, like a 3-way combination of DNA in their offspring. God, blimey. Could you imagine the porn that comes from that? Helen Moody says in Women in Ufology, I'm a lady who loves this topic and I've been researching it all my life. It's not about our biology or about our genders or about anyone's adult sexual orientation. It's about mystery and truth-seeking. Quite so, Helen. And you are one of the people who except you're female and you like this sort of topic, which makes you it makes you unusual. It makes you unusual. Not unique, but it's unusual. You are part of a demographic which is lower in number within the community. But as I said, that's not a bad thing. David says underneath, sadly, ladies are small in number in ufology, but why is that sadly, David? but the ones I know get better results than many of their male counterparts. I know a few in the USA and UK. My conclusion is they are as knowledgeable and has proved their capabilities in the field. Yes, that's true. And some of them are exceptional. I gave a list of some of them in this video. The problem is that, like, even you get these people like Ryan Sprague, who's totally and utterly bought into. He's totally bought into this women in ufology thing, to the point where he named Linda Moulton Howe as the example of a woman who never had her voice heard for being a woman, which is it's insulting and it's stupid. It's insulting to her. It's insulting to us. Here we go. Helen Moody says again, Ben and I met at the Awaken Aware conference at High Elms Manor and had an awesome chat and giggles. We did, I remember that, yeah. And we hugged the Godzilla tree and a good old explore of the fantastic garden together. We're meant to be a human race, not the divide and conquer BS chess game for the powers that be. Yeah. Quite so, Helen. I remember that very well. And David Smith says here, try telling that to those who, after getting a winning lottery vagina? Oh, what's he? Try telling that to those who, after getting a winning lottery vagina, want to prevent others moving to a better place on the planet because it's all part of the New World Order plan. Winning lottery. I don't know what you mean by winning lottery vagina. Again, that sounds like some kind of. Oh, I've just got a fan here. I'm going to move the fan slightly because it's getting very hot and I have to. Oh, hang on. One sec, Jake. Just try a slight break. I want to prevent others moving to a better place on the planet because it's all part of the New World Order plan. Oh, you're referring to immigration here. You might be able to hear a bit of wind on the mic. Sorry about that, but it's getting very hot here. Well, firstly, my aim, David, is to improve the quality of life across the world. I think that's the ultimate solution, which is possible in a post-disclosure world. But it is part of the New World Order plan, and it's not actually helping. And we've discussed this before. It's not helping these others by just allowing them to move wherever they like. It's hurting them as well as the country they come from. It's hurting the country they leave behind. It's hurting them. It's hurting the country they go to. And it is part of the New World Order plan. So I've got sweat on me now. Won't be a sec. How do I look? But as you can see, yeah, I look a bit greasy. You can see these things more on this new webcam because it's better quality. If I'd had more time, I'd have tidied up a bit more, but I didn't. Sorry about that. Helen says here as well on women in ufology. In the past few decades, all sorts of woo research. I've seen some awesome ladies and gentlemen who are fantastic geeks and nerd researchers who blow my mind. Yeah, the ladies who've particularly informed me and inspired me are Kerry Cassidy, Laura Eisenhower, Kathy Morgan, Nina Valentine, and to a lesser extent Angela Power Disney. All personal experiences aside, there's Laurie Fenton. That's Laurie. Laurie and Fenton. That is. Yeah. So many people who don't care about this BS. I'm definitely up for an interview with one of you, or more, regardless of biology or gender, because it's about truth, not programming. However, that pesky pecking order they used is awful, and the fallout Facebook groups is just horrific. We're meant to be fighting the dark, not each other. Up the love revolution. I can't disagree with that at all. No, I mean you're quite right about the people you mentioned there. I actually interviewed Angela Power Disney myself. This is one of the things I'm trying to fight back against, but I'm against this idea that people are being segregated essentially, which is funny enough. The wokeists are now, some of them are now calling for apartheid-like segregation. They're actually saying that they want like Jim Crow laws back, It's the horrible behaviour. You get some trolls, Helen, and I mean some of them are sexist idiots, I know, and I block them if they ever turn up, if they come anywhere near me. Alex Lehman said in Women in Ufology, look at that picture upside down, cross Antichrist, the halo around the ET's head mocking a saint, and then the ET itself. The devil transformed into an angel of light so the devil can shapeshift, get to know the truth. Yeshua saves. Yeshua is Jesus. No, it's just a silly. I've just Googled female alien or feminist alien, and that's what I got. I was looking for an image to illustrate this video, and that's what I got. I didn't want to put people's I didn't want to put people's faces in it. I thought about having like a row of female ufologists, you know, Powell Harris there, then Linda Moulton Howe, you know, then Laura and several other people, you know, in a row or something like that. And I thought, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. So I decided on this image instead. Helen Moody again. Positive discrimination is still discrimination. Exactly, it is. It's positive discrimination is actually very Orwellian. Not quite as Orwellian as its other name, affirmative action, but it's still. It just basically means trying to cancel out an injustice, whether real or perceived, with another injustice. And it doesn't work. You just get a double dose of injustice. And in this case, it is a perceived engineered injustice, fake injustice. It was funny, strange lettering here on this username on Women in Ufology. League of Heretics. Hello, League of Heretics. That sounds familiar. Have we met? League of Heretics. Someone talked about League of Heretics. Yeah, but let me know, because I mean that name sounds familiar. Maybe we spoke before. I don't know, but let me know. Ben, great to see you on YouTube. I get the irony. You're a great communicator. Keep it up. Thanks very much, League of Heretics. And do let me know who you are, why I remember you, remember that name. Gary Robinson says, Women in Ufology. Women in Ufology, said in an offended woke person's voice. Oh, that's like Dave Cullen. Like that. Oh, here we go. Right, Gary Robinson says on Women in Ufology. In all seriousness, Ben, as long as they get the housework done and get the dinner on the table, then I guess there's no problem letting them take part in the ufology scene. Pride and dignity, brother. Oh my goodness me, Gary. I know you're joking, but some people won't. Some people won't see the funny side of that. I do, but some people won't. Rainwater. That's all very well and good in theory, but the reality is the housework gets neglected and your dinner is either late or on the table burnt or badly presented or just not done at all. A late dinner for me means I have to eat it watching The Chase, and this can cause mild indigestion. Totally her fault, but try pointing this out, and that's when the Hurt Sheila card gets played. No, allowing interests outside normal duties leads to all sorts of complications, and it becomes necessary to adopt a firm hand to get the place in order again. Stick to the basics, so I say everyone's happy. Oh my goodness me, Rainwater. You are... I know you're kind of being ironic here. Because that's just so... What's the word? That's just... It's almost like you're kind of being a cardboard cutout caricature of a male chauvinist pig. And I know you're just... No one's that extreme unless they're acting. I know some people who do that just for the hell of it. Barley's Den. Women have small feet for a reason. Yes, because generally they are smaller. They're generally, I think they're about 3/4 the size of men. But that's why they have small feet, yeah. Because they have small everything else. Except for tits. They have bigger tits. Or at least, I hope they do. That's not universal, by the way. I mean, you look at some blokes after they've had a few Big Macs, and I tell you what, they need bras. Nihilist lives matter. There isn't enough diversity amongst the greys. Well, there's large, medium, and small nihilists. You can't ask for more than that, you know. Dr. Keith. There's not enough cats in ufology. Well, I did try... remember those 5 cats I lived with? I did show them a flying saucer, but a little toy flying saucer, but they just played with it. They just rolled it along and chased it. Gary Robinson says on Women in Ufology, the reason there are not many women in ufology is because, for the most part, women are not interested in it. Jordan Peterson once said that the same goes for female construction workers and pilots. The vast majority of the workforce in these industries are men simply because there are more men interested in those jobs. That's right, that's correct. Funny enough, feminists don't, when it comes to construction workers and other jobs that are unglamorous, dangerous and dirty and low paid, the feminists don't mind the men getting on with those. I, as a hospital porter, worked in a male-dominated profession, and more than 95% of hospital porters are male. And no one ever suggested we need more diversity. All those women in medical school, you know, get them out, and all those women studying psychology and things like that, needlework, Get them into hospital portering. No, no, no. He carries on. I work in music and entertainment, and it's really made me cringe when artists or DJs from a certain genres of music that I deal with complain about female representation, when there are a lot of really great female figureheads in those scenes already. Of course. You know, could you... Some of whom I work with, and most of whom are more successful than their male counterparts. The claim that men are stopping these women from achieving success is nonsense. This is going to sound very sexist, but the fact is that in my industry it's often easier for a woman with talent to break through because us men are suckers for a good-looking woman. I have 2 female colleagues in particular who are 2 of the biggest DJs on the planet, and I can tell you now that they don't concern themselves with feminism or wokeism. Cheers. Cheers, Gary. Yeah, well, I'm pleased you are... I think this is kind of becoming more and more obvious now, I must say. It's... A lot of people are making these points. There's people like Jordan Peterson, Milo Yiannopoulos, and others. They're becoming mainstream figures now, and they're saying this. And it's the feminists who complain about this and go on about representation, when full representation, as they define it, is impossible. It's impossible. You literally have to force women at gunpoint into professions they don't want. Most of them don't want to do. And when you would have to, because you wouldn't be able to find enough women to volunteer. So you'd have to literally force them at gunpoint. You'd have to force men out at gunpoint as well. So you see, it's impossible. What the kind of parity, the balance, to quote the horrible feminists you get in ufology, the balance can't be achieved. But the effort to try and create it would be incredibly destructive. David says underneath, I have a few good lady friends in the USA and UK who are as good as their male counterparts in ufology, and many have better pictures on UFOs on many occasions. Let's not have sexist views on the numbers. They simply may not be interested at all, or they haven't seen any. I have to see how many women are interested in my UFO pictures and videos compared to men. That's true, David, it is. I mean, I find actually that it's about what you'd expect. It's about, just over 3/4 male. But, I mean, there's loads of... It's not universal. There's actually a Scottish lady called Suzanne, who I just know on Facebook, who's excellent. She's very passionate about the subject, and she runs a really... Aerial Phenomenon, a really good group. And the idea that somehow people like me are keeping her out, or we're discouraging her, or things like that, we're not making it welcoming enough for her, there's these other little silly epithets you get, is absurd. And Gary says here, entirely up to you, mate. That's the whole point. You know, welcome. We really do need to leave people alone to make their own choices. You see, I do believe there is, for things like ufology, there is an equality of opportunity. There really is. You don't get equality of outcome for the reasons I explained in the video. David, Tina Bird is a very good ufologist. A shout out for her and Ben, Hugh Fogg, my CE5 friends. Yeah, Tina has a new book which I've got to read. It looks really good. I know Tina. She's got a very interesting story to tell. Hugh Fogg, is that the Hampshire UFO group, David? It could be. Yeah, that's. But I think we probably met then. Are you Tina's husband? I think she's married to a guy called David, I think. BZ Garson. Me, in the countryside, with 13 other white men, I was very, very drunk. Oh, BZ. Shame you don't remember it then. BZ Garson. This is all women in ufology. You got triggered by what? One woman said to you at a woo-woo conference, this has to be the least important video you've ever made. No, BZ. It wasn't just her. She was one, but there has been several actually like this. I mentioned them in the video. I mentioned Paola Harris, didn't I? It's I've heard it from other people. I mentioned Ryan Sprague. I think it's a very, very sinister thing going on, and that's why I mentioned it. It is a very important video. I need it to be there as a point of reference, so that I have something I can just direct people to when this sort of thing happens. Wayne RS4, hello Wayne. Was quite a long comment here. Ben, I have a question that's not really related to this video, but it's your most recent post, so I thought I'd ask it here. I've been listening to a few older shows from Coast to Coast and relating to Rendlesham Forest, and was considering buying the book Left at Eastgate but while listening to Coast AM, I've realised this book was pulled from sale due to inconsistency. Will Larry Warren's version of events. Not just one person, but many people said this, and the main writer of the book then did some research himself, and he too found this to be the case. That's why he pulled the book from sale. I appreciate this must be old news, but it's new to me, and I just wondered what your thoughts were on this matter. I also appreciate Larry's a friend of yours, and I'm not judging him at all, as I don't know the man. I was just after your honest opinion on this situation and whether or not it's worth purchasing this book. If it's not really based on facts, I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this matter. And is there any updates when the film's going to be released? Cheers. Sure bet, Wayne. That's not a problem. I'll answer this question. The book, I would get the book left at Eastgate. Not least you can only get it second hand now because it's out of print for the reasons you said. The book was pulled by both authors, not just one. One of the authors, you called him the main writer of the book. I assume you mean Peter Robbins. Peter Robbins is not the main writer of the book. It was a 50-50 effort on both the parts of both authors. Peter he recommended to the publishers the book be pulled from sale, but then so did Larry. Larry said he didn't want it on sale anymore. It had a good run. But the thing is, I think Peter Robbins has been very dishonest about this whole situation. He seemed to do a backflip almost overnight regarding after he came across some information from third parties, which I have proven is false. I and Gary Hasseltine, from approaching this completely independently, have proved that the accusations against Larry are a fabrication. So I think that it's because he took on this idea that he decided to break contact with Larry and to recommend the book be pulled from sale. There is hopefully going to be a new book at some point. I haven't heard it. That's just what I've heard. It's not formal. But as for the film itself, I think is going to be what the book is going to give the information that's in the book plus a lot more, and it's going to be solely from Larry's position. And when's it going to be? When's it going to be released? That's a good question. However, I do know it is an active project. It's not been abandoned as some people are claiming. Some people are saying, "Look, you've given up on it, guys. You've given up. We're never going to see Capel Green. It's just going to go into the dustbin with all the outtakes." No, it's not. I'm in touch with the production team. It is, and I'm speaking to them regularly. They want to have a big screen premiere with red carpets and things, and you can't do that unless we know there's not going to be a lockdown. I think that's the main reason. There's also last-minute editing. It's become a huge project, way beyond what was originally acknowledged. Tessa 1111 on women in ufology. More women probably have abduction activity, just might not acknowledge it for fear of family abuse, not realizing they've been de-egged in their sleep. Yeah, it's well, that's from what I've gathered. That's probably true, actually. Although sometimes men have sperm extracted too. Some alien abduction experiences do involve the removal of ova from women and sperm from men. There's even people who are sort of forced or even sometimes willingly engage in relationships with aliens that resemble the opposite sex. Sometimes this is sometimes this is very violent in a forced situation, such as Antonio Villas-Boas, which is a terrifying case, actually. People say, "Oh, lucky bloke." People have been saying, "Oh, lucky bloke." You must be joking. If you wouldn't want that to happen to you, be realistic. It's terrifying. Yeah, they do seem to have. Some of the aliens have a fixation on reproduction, don't they? But fear of family abuse, yeah. I've heard it said that women fear ostracization more than men, although both men, again generalizing, both men and women suffer terribly from ostracization, but for women, in general, it's worse. Sonara's Ashtree says, "Hello, Sonara, how are you?" "Oh, Ben, these whiny women exist everywhere that white men group together. In my whole life up till now, I've never met another woman that was interested in this subject. The woman you're talking about is talking pampered nonsense, yeah. They've been weaponized by a dysfunctional society. Good to see you making a video on that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Sonara. Very well said indeed. That's absolutely true. I mean, they exist whenever you said exactly. Whenever you get a group of people, white men, and even if they're mostly white men, the wokeists descend on it. They try poking it and prodding it and saying, "Oh, this has got to stop." And I have met other women who were interested. Oh, that's the end of an hour. I have met other women who were interested in the subject. Quite a few actually, scenario, but they are a minority. They are far smaller in number than the men, and indeed there are non-white people as well I've met involved in this subject. Again, they are a minority compared to the white. But the woman, yes, she is completely deluded. The woman that I'm talking about here, yeah, and she is a product, unfortunately, of mind control. So I'm glad you liked that video. Anyway, so we're going to give it a little break there, and come back for hour number 2. I'm going to do a bit of technical stuff. Okay, guys, I'm back for hour number 2. So where were we? So now Zastri, yeah. Ben W says on women in ufology, there aren't enough UFOs in ufology. I'd like to see more of them, Ben. I must say, there are a few, but there are some. I'll put that over there just a sec. I think there are. Some of the skeptics will say there are none. I think there are. Okay, Centaur. That's an old video now, a very heartfelt, personal video I'm making now. I made there. Ed Kaler says Centaur still alive now. He'd be 74. He's about that. Yeah, he's about 70. He's in his mid-70s. Women in ufology. Ed Kaler again. Don't hold back the right thoughts. Eventually, those thoughts will go, and you will be converted. It's not they go. Maybe some people cope with it by denying those thoughts, but most people, it just builds up inside them and they become bitter and they get angry and they feel that they can't speak out about the way they're feeling. By the way, if you may still be hearing some wind on the mic, it's because it is actually very... I'll just try switching the fan off and see if it's okay now, but it's actually quite hot in here today. Right, Ed Kaler says on women in ufology, could you ever foresee a left-dominated UFO movement? Oh, God, no. The UFOs tend to be quite centrist, actually, so it is too hot here. They tend to be quite centrist, actually, Ed. I suppose I'm quite a centrist person, I suppose. As you know, if you watch my video, Jay Posadas and his alien communists, there are left-dominated movements within ufology. Very, very small number, quite fringe, but there is. I think that's the only one. I think, which is quite unique, which is why I decided to cover it, read the book about it, and cover it. Ed Kaler says, "I'd love to see a video. Same video. I'd love to see a video on your Porter delivery suite experience. I will." Ed, I probably won't do a video about it, but I will do a gas spanner episode about it. If you heard of HPANWO Radio, I will do a gas spanner episode. I will. It's going to be painful to talk about, but I will at some place. Women in ufology. Neil Peel says, look at all those South American farmers that had sex with UFOs with hot alien women, but they don't complain. I think you're referring to the guy I just talked about, Antonio Villas-Boas. He's only one as far as I know, but it was rape, really. He was given some medication that made him sick, and he ended up seeing an alien that looked a little bit like a human woman. Not completely. There were distinct differences that indicated this was no ordinary woman. But he recalled eagerly engaging this creature in sex, which seems strange considering the situation he was in. I think it had something to do with the gas that he'd been forced to inhale. But he actually afterwards he had the usual post-abduction experience and found it very, very difficult. I think it's probably not as, in the long run, when you're in your right state of mind, it's probably actually more frightening than erotic. Steve Mumling said, nothing whatsoever to do with all the ayahuasca they consume at PMSL. Oh, God, get those adult nappies to him as quickly as possible. Neil Peel says to Steve, that's what the alien women drank to get them through it. Well, actually, Steve, it's actually, when it comes to ayahuasca, it's actually the Amazonian Indians who actually can have ayahuasca cemeteries, and they take ayahuasca. Farmers in Minas Gerais do not generally. Sunshine Dragon says in Women in Ufology, I'm a woman, or as a woman, I'm interested in UFOs. So are almost all the women I know. But we talk and theorise only in private about such themes. The thing is, we women are put more under the eyes of the society around us, especially after we've got kids, had kids, and we women know all too well how much people love to talk about others, and we're cautious enough not to be marked as a ufologist. It wasn't all too long ago women brand marked as crazy landed in the psychiatry and ended up getting a lobotomy. So we're used now to avoid to stand out in society with something that could be used against us. Yeah, and Sunshine Dragon, what you described there actually does affect both sexes. However, from what I gather, it is more it's more difficult for women than it is for men because of the fear of ostracization. And as you said, there's also such as mental illness. It's actually feminism that's done this, really, that's actually created all this focus on women's mental issues, which in many cases is very valid. In fact, it's valid for both sexes. But I don't know the actual statistics, but I know from dealing with psychiatric patients that more female than male. Lobotomies are not lobotomy. You don't get lobotomies now, but you say not that long ago. It actually is quite frightening. Lobotomies is actually surgically removing part of the brain to try and cure a mental illness. You think of like Victorian doctors, guys with beards and white aprons covered in blood, with like carpenter's tools, sitting looming over somebody who's got no anaesthetic. The last lobotomy was actually performed on a very tragic individual, the singer Lena Zavaroni, who actually died. She was in her 30s and eventually died of anorexia. She died of malnutrition due to anorexia. It was performed as a desperate attempt to cure her of that. And I don't think there's been another lobotomy since then. Same video. Vitaly Klomino says, well, Lurker, weighing in there. Ray and Hey Ben. I went to Bufon to meet you. I think, do you mean Bufog? I felt that it was not a problem that I was a woman there. When I explained I was there to listen to your talk and meet the team and sit in to review it for the blog, I found everyone was very polite. Well, I don't... Vitaly, that's a boy's name, isn't it? Oh, but you have a... Vitaly Klomino. All right, I don't recognise you. I don't recognise your name. You've got I know Vitaly is a boy's name, and it's Russian or Polish, but I don't remember you. Sorry, but yeah, I think you mean Bufog rather than, or do you mean Bufog or Sufon? Because Bufon, I don't think there's such a thing as Bufon. I've certainly never been to a group called Bufon. If I saw you, I'd probably remember you. You said it. The only thing that was weird was someone's wife wanting to talk to me about kids and family stuff. The men wanted to talk about the stuff they were there for. I don't actually care what gender someone is at these things. Are they informed? Are they fair? And are they going about it correctly? Women may just not be that interested compared to men. I find many women tend to lean more towards my paranormal subjects over my other areas. Anywho, been a few years and back off. I got lurking. Cheerio all. Well, thanks for commenting, Vitaly, after all lurking for so long and watching me. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, as far as the paranormal subject, non-ufological things such as mediumship, spiritualism. I actually mentioned spiritualism in the video. That is actually very more. You say women are just not interested compared to men. Well, generally not. As I said, this is all about generalization, not, as I said to Sunshine Dragon, there were exceptions, many, many exceptions, and that includes the social side of things. However, when you generalize across a population, we do gravitate towards different interests, men and women. What you find with ghost hunting and things like that, and especially like the laboratory psychical research, I think, if anything, probably women may well outnumber men in that. I'm not sure exactly what the statistics are, but I know, for instance, mediumship. I think probably about 4 out of 5 mediums are women. There are male mediums, including very famous male mediums such as Derek Okora, who's now in spirit himself. But yeah, there's no doubt there's a tendency for people of different types to go for different things, and this is simply to do with our biology. It's as simple as that, and you can't change it. You can't change it, as we are human, and this is part of what makes us human, is these differences. And the attempt to change it would be absolutely disastrous, which is why I have to fight back against this attempt to change it. But yeah, you may have found yourself drawn onto this other woman because she thought, oh, thank God, I'm not the only girl in the room, and she might have gone up to you and said, hey, and wanted to talk to you about family stuff. That could have been just who she was. I've actually found that I can have conversations with female ufologists which are as stimulating as those with male ufologists. Stephen Truthseeker, you've unblocked me now, have you? Oh God. Humans can never have equality, but what they can have is justice, and it should be done on an individual basis with everyone taken on board. People can never heal themselves unless they get justice first. I'm sorry your friend passed over the other week. Oh, thanks, Stephen. Thank you. As you know, we know each other personally, and we've had personal issues between us, and I'm glad you decided to unblock me. I really am. And now we have Julie Phillips. Hi, Julie Phelps. Sorry, Julie Phelps, who says, Ben, I've spoken to you many times, and I know her well. I sort of know her quite well compared to a lot of other people in this field anyway. Hi Ben, as a woman who worked in almost a male trade as an aircraft mechanic and obviously talked at the basis conference, I agree with you. I totally disagree with positive discrimination that feeds the victim mentality. We are all unique beings. Believe me, I had to fight while serving, but I'm not a victim. I am a survivor and fighter. However, women in Afghanistan say that is different. They struggle just to go to school. Yeah, like Malala, we know her story. Well, Ben, it's all about turning one against another, women against men, black against white, etc. When we're all one underneath it all. Yeah, Julie, they do seem to like that, don't they? They do seem to relish that kind of conflict, don't they? Which is why they breed victim mentality in one group of people. They breed they breed resentment and victimhood in one group. The other group, they tend to breed guilt, self-loathing, a feeling of being evil and things like that. And that has a purpose. It's not just happening. I mean, we wouldn't be living in a world where your university professors are calling for the reintroduction of Jim Crow laws and apartheid and Sharia-style, gender segregation. It's extremely sinister. I really do think that. And Julie says again on the same video, what I found out is, boy, there are a lot of arguments in the UFO field, whether this is about ego or targeting. I'm not sure, as I steer clear of the gossip and arguments. Well, I try to, Julie, myself, although sometimes I get sucked into them. I mean, simply saying what I think, and especially when I try to defend people, like my friends and people like that, and I inevitably get sucked into this sort of thing. And so Steve mumbling replies, what does your boss in this... Right, okay, Steve, I'm deleting your comment. Where are you? How do I delete his comment? Right, so that's out of order. David Splendid Isolation says, on women in ufology, if only there was parity, that would be absolutely amazing, but sadly not to be. Well, I'm not sure. What do you describe as parity? I would say parity in the sense that the wokists want it is essentially a homogenous humanity where everyone is exactly the same. We're all carbon cutouts of each other. So that's how they describe it. I don't think that would be amazing. I think that'd be very boring. I think we're in a situation which is meant to be. Anyone who wants to get involved can get involved. Anyone who has something interesting to say, their voice will be heard. I've explained why I don't believe interesting women are being ignored because they're women. This is a myth that is being propagated like by the person I spoke to, who inspired me to make this video. Bluebeam says on women in ufology, I think women got cheated out of the US election in 2020, basically, and they will be reinstated in August. What? I think women got cheated out of the US election in 2020 and will be reinstated in August. Do you mean Trump will be? Well, August has now passed, Bluebeam, but what, women got cheated? Well, everyone who voted got cheated. That's if you especially voted for Trump, you got cheated, whether you're male or female. Right, Get a Job, You Lazy Scroungers, Part 1. An old and infamous video. Taurine says, I know someone who barely has any employment history from years old, failed his degree, has been on benefits for a decade, yet insists on applying for jobs paying £35,000 per annum. Must be stress-free as well. Oh, well, you know, you'll be lucky. You can work your way up to that, but you can't. I don't think you can get straight into the job market with that kind of salary. Depends what your profession is, but again, if he's failed his degree and he's got no education, you have to go into something unskilled. I mean, you can learn skills, you can get an apprenticeship, you can get training and things like that, and possibly promotion. But yeah, that is a little bit. And stress-free, well, I think a totally stress-free job would be a bit boring. TK says on women in ufology, I think more aliens should be represented in ufology. Oh yeah, was it? Oh, Tim Beckley's last book was called Grey Lives Matter. Well, no, Alien Lives. What's it called? Hang on, what's it called? He wrote it just before he died. Bless him. Hang on. Timothy Green Beckley. Let's have a look. I was on his show a few times actually. I had to get up at like 3 in the morning, but it was worth it to be on his show. Where are we now? Oh, there's lots of things dedicated to his memory. Oh, he's got so many books. He really has. Oh, here we go. Alien Lives Matter. Alien Lives Matter. It's okay to be grey. Oh, bless you, Tim. Wherever you are now, thank you for giving us a wonderful laugh. Okay. Wayne RS4, right. Okay, Wayne is... I'm not going to read this out, Wayne. I've already replied to you in text. Steve Mumbling says underneath to that, this is referring to someone who I actually blocked more than 3 years ago now because of her conduct towards me. Steve says, she's just as bad as the rest of the nutters. She used to call herself an ET contactee and claim she was abducted by aliens to defuse terrorist bombs. PMSL. Seems she's dropped the ET contact from her channel name. Perhaps her conscience got the better of her. And Wayne is laughing at that. Charles from Project Camelot says, considering so many aliens crash all over the place, I wouldn't trust them as bomb disposal experts. They're more likely to set off a nuke with their track record. Well, according to Captain Robert Salas, they actually shut down nukes. But in Russia, there was an incident in Russia, actually, which is not unlike the one Captain Salas had in America, where a missile launch facility was buzzed by a UFO, and the missile started activating. I mean, the launch officers went crazy. They were trying to shut these things down. They were terrified because these missiles were going to launch. And, of course, when they launch, that means America's going to fire back, and before you know it, boom, the world's blown up. But, yeah, they don't actually crash all over the place. But they do crash more often than people think, I reckon. And Roswell is not the only Roswell. Snarnock says on women in ufology, I remember seeing a lot of women in the audience of the RDH talks, live talks when I attended. I think there were quite a few in. I remember there were quite a few in the audience. Some of the ones I've been to, yeah. But it's Richard's. I think Richard does seem to appeal to the females, actually, maybe for obvious reasons. I don't know. Maybe he does. I know a lot of them like him. Women in ufology. David David Splendid Isolation says, Jenny Randall's, enough said. Well, yeah, she's one of the people who... I actually mentioned her in the video. She's a perfect example of a woman who's achieved a huge amount in the field, along with the other 3 horsewomen of Rendlesham Forest and many other people you could many other examples. Okay, we have The Awakening of 12 Strands premiere. Rami, still Rami, says, I'm not going to mention the name, but this person talks a lot off at many dubiously related tangents. This narrator also talks banter without saying anything concrete at all. Some people turned up, as they do, and thought, and I said to my friend who came from downtown on public transport, I've seen these people, I'm sure I've seen those people before. Who are they? I'm sure I've seen those people before. And of course they were characters in the film. Yeah. That's what I did. I did comment that because I met some of the cast when I was there, and he says, "What kind of madness is this? Is it delusional schizoid disorder?" No, Rami, it's not. I think you're male, aren't you? No, it's not, Rami. It's simply, I was just saying that. I just mentioned that. Sorry. Some people walked into the meeting, and I thought, I've seen them before somewhere. Where are they? Of course, they were cast members. Eschaton 1 says on women in ufology, Chris Whitty, Ben, do you think that there's a possibility he could be a grey human hybrid? And I actually put a text comment on that. But Charles says, absolute rubbish. The old mumbling line. However, he certainly looks like Dracula, doesn't he? He's got these evil eyes, you know. You've seen that picture of him being jabbed? He's got these evil eyes. Yes, and... Women in Ufology, Gary Robertson, Zelia Edgar, she's pretty cool. I've not heard of her. Basis of the Barge, Part 1 of 2. Brett the Maverick says, I get it, you don't like Greer. Too much politics for me. I don't, no, I mean, I'm not, I resent him, what he's just done. I mean, like, I don't like him now, I don't think. I think I had mixed feelings towards him before this new video came out. Now I think he's really descended. He's really stooped to a new low, and I've lost all respect for him. I really have. I don't like that. I think he's an arrogant twat, basically. Gareth Davis Memorial Livestream. Ravenhill Forest Bandit 1968 says, nice to sit back and listen to what I missed, Ben. Hope you're keeping well. Thanks, guys. Thanks. I'm just gonna give you love hearts, guys, rather than replies, if that's all right. Because again, this subject particularly, I don't really feel I can say anything except thank you, and I appreciate your support. Dark Corners says, just finished work. I'm now going to sit back and watch. I hope you like it, Dark Corners. Oh, Gary Jones, hello. Says, he's asked a specific question, so I'll give him a reply. Hi, Ben. Watching this on the catch-up. Is there any way yourself, Reeves, Matthew Williams, Trevor, etc., could continue the podcast or Power Talk in some fashion? Maybe bring in Steve Wells or Justin Villarreal or Thomas Sheridan or some other Mindset regulars. Well, the answer to that, Gary, is Power Talk is going to continue. Reeves is going to produce it himself. As for the Mindset podcast, I wouldn't, if that carries on, I wouldn't want to be involved. I think that's Gareth's thing, and I wouldn't want to be involved. However, in a sense, that's already happening. An alternative to the Mindset podcast has already been established. It's called Third Rail Radio. We're on our 108th show. And you can find it on HPANWO Radio. It's hosted mostly by me and Trevor, but sometimes we get other people in as well. And it is a continuation of the Mindset. The reason I set it up was because in 2017, Gareth stopped Mindset Central, and we didn't know for how long for. We thought maybe forever. So he said, well, we want to carry on. So we did. Sue Hayward-Tompkins says on Gareth Davis Memorial Livestream, I've just woke up. I'm making my first coffee of the day. Nice to see this up, Ben. Hi, Ben. Stay strong. Thanks, Sue. Much appreciated. The Radcliffe Infirmary site in Oxford, another old video, and it's Ed Kaler says, wow, why were you challenged by that security guard? Not like you were in the City of London. Oh, he did. This is one of the things. I mean, I'm less of a fan of Charlie Veitch than I've ever been before. Because I just don't like his new attitude particularly. I used to think more of him than I did, but his current behaviour is really sometimes really low. But I did learn a lot from him about how to deal with security and things like this, when he was literally dealing with security and not just members of the public. And this guy did go over and try and tell me stop not to film, and I was on a public highway, and I told him so. And to his credit, he just said okay. Same video, Ed Kaler again. You talk about childhood memory. You talk about childhood memory, a painful one? Question mark. Did you upload a video in the end? What was that about? Centaur? Yes, Ed. Basically Centaur was the video I made after this. I shot it on the same day, and that's the one I was talking about. Yeah. Gareth Davis livestream, Maiden fan. Hey Ben, great stream. Here's the link to that video I mentioned. I don't believe all of it. Can't see how an object left in 2007 will be found in present, but can't work out how the rest would be done. All right, let's have a look at this, Maiden fan. I appreciate you letting me know. What is this? Right. Oh, ads. A man is living in 2027 and human race is gone. Video proof. So we got another bloody ad. Let's have a look. Oh, this is 16 minutes long. Oh, it's on Omar.
Only one left on Earth.
Oh dear. Let me just start again, sorry.
What if you woke up one day to the terrifying reality that you were the only one left on Earth?
Oh dear. I wrote a story once about that, actually, about a guy who does work. This is when I was a kid at school. I wrote a short story about a guy who wakes up and just everyone else has disappeared for some reason that I've never explored. This is on Omar Gosh TV. That's O-M-A-R and Gosh, G-O-S-H TV. And it says here, a man from Valencia, Spain, travels to the future and is trapped in 2077 with no signs of life. Oh my God. Well, this is actually, it's called, the title is Man is Living in 2027 and Human Race is Gone. Video proof. And there's a word in, I think, Italian, which I don't know. It's 16 minutes long. I'll have to come back to it. Many thanks, Maiden fan. I'll have to come back to it. Be the Truth says, how you feeling, Ben? Hoping better and getting through your grief with love and support. Bless you. Thanks. I got your love heart. Same video. This is Gareth Davis as well, memorial. This is Mark Porrett, who says here, blimey, this video is 2 hours, 11 minutes and 11 seconds in duration. Weird. 11:11. Connected to Gareth again. I noticed Gareth's last upload he made before he began his live stream. It was 11:11 a.m. That's, yeah. That's odd, isn't it? It was 2 hours, 11 minutes, 11 seconds. That wasn't intentional. Quite amazing. There you go, 11:11 synchronicities. R.I.P. Gareth. See you at the Jesus Omega point, pal. Oh, well, thanks, Mark. Louise James says, excellent upload, Ben. Great to have found you through Gareth, as you are very similar and have similar beliefs and education to similar levels. You're both rarities in the world of BS. Oh, thanks, Louis. Thanks very much. Or Louis or Louis. Thanks very much. Same video. There's a series of numbers. This username is a series of numbers. 161157 Gore. G-O-R. All right. There's 3 letters at the end of it. Gareth Davis, internet entertainer, a great son of South Wales, joining the likes of Dylan Thomas, Richard Burden, Deke Leonard, Mickey Jones, etc. et al. In the Vale of the Great Beyond. Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. He is indeed. He's got that Welsh gift of the gab. Same video, Hugo Rune. 10135 onwards. What is the airspeed velocity of the laden swallow? I'm surprised you don't recognise that. Monty Python's. Oh, right. Oh, Charles did actually. Oh, right. Let's have Monty Python reference. Monty Python's Unladen Swallow. Oh, what's this? Oh, hang on.
20.
Oh, it's the Holy Grail. There we go. Oh, it's 2 minutes long, but yeah, I think it may be one of the ones where they're making comments about the coconuts, aren't they? Where'd you get that coconut from, then? It's. I didn't get it. If you'd said like a man eating white rabbit, I'd have got that one. I've recognised that one. Cocky. All right, we're on March for Life now. Well, this is going to be controversial. What if a woman is raped? Are you against her aborting? Cocky, the answer to that question is yes, and I explain why in the video. Here we go. I hope I'm not going to lose friends here, but it might happen. That's so be it. Sue Hayward Tompkins says, when I was pregnant with my first child, the gyno that I was sent to told me to have an abortion, as we were then living at the time with my sister-in-law in a very large room. I was incensed, so I slapped his face and walked out. As I knew it would, all turned out well. My daughter is a very successful teacher, and I raised her and my 2 sons in my own house. Oh, bless you. I gave you a love heart for that, Sue. Thank you. BZ Garson says, when was this? In the 1800s? No doctor would ever recommend an abortion based on you living in cramped living conditions. It would be completely unethical and also illegal. Well, BZ, doctors do this sort of thing sometimes. You know the old joke about the difference? What's the difference between a doctor and God? The answer is God doesn't think he's a doctor. Sue replies to BZ. This doctor did say it was 1982 and we lived in a very large room. We called a room the billiard room due to the size of it. So we were not cramped at all. We moved from there to our own place shortly after this incident, BZ replies. So it was not cramped living conditions, which makes the recommendation of the doctor even more bizarre. Did you ask him for specific reasons why he would recommend you have an abortion? If he did you question the reasons other than slapping his face? Sue replies, he told me this as he was not aware of where we lived. My father-in-law had made a lot of extensions to the house. It was my husband's father's house. Still, that doctor did not have the right to say that to me. What I find is, Sue, in Australia you often get this. It's Australians are. I'm not again. It's not Australian people. It is the system. It's authoritarian. There is corruption. There really is, and we've seen that recently with the C word, haven't we? Sax Glend, what a name. March for Life. Look after your own life. You are overweight and unfit. Well, so what is that coming from you, Mr. Skinny Bastard? Mr. Skinny Anorexic? Why don't you go out and get a decent meal? Sax Glend. I mean, every time you bend over, it looks like a polo mint between a pair of razor blades. I bet you have to walk along with your hands held out like that so you don't fall down gratings. Oh, here we go. Yes, Sue, I actually sent a message to Sue, an inbox. So, Sue, if you're watching this, check your inboxes. But Sue says here, that the lovely lady that's married to my brother had an abortion when she was a young adult, and to this day has not gotten over that decision. She still cries about it and has nightmares. I actually sent an inbox message to Sue. I want to have a word with her. Maybe I'll say something public after that, but I want to talk about something that I'm familiar with. Jack Parker said on March for Life, we need to stop and ponder, what does theocracy mean? It literally means, well, theocracy literally means ruled by God, but it refers to a state, a religious state. For example, Saudi Arabia is run by the political system is based on the Sharia, the holy law of Islam, which is said to be a gift from God. Therefore, it cannot be amended. It cannot be disobedience is a very serious offence, and it cannot be amended or reformed. And how dare they cheaply use Jesus Christ as a prop in this discussion, and the Bible. And on January the 6th, the scaffold in front of the White House, United States, should it have been a cross they erected for Mike Pence in the same spirit. Well, the US, I know there's words like one nation under God, but the Christianity is a very important part of the American culture. Technically, though, the US is not a theocracy in the sense that it has a secular constitution. See, Jack Parker says here again, it's a very ugly paradox. This issue is a very sensitive one with the law as it stands. Can someone imagine mass enforcement of such a law contrary? I think we know it would lead to ugly, dangerous abortions for the mothers. Maybe that should be their penalty. Is that truly the truth? But realise the outcome of this forced administering discussion. Maybe it needs to be handled with kid gloves. And this is often an argument you get. You say, if you don't have clean, safe medical abortions, then women will just go and get backstreet abortions and probably end up killing themselves and things like that. That's a bit like saying, well, we must have a proper concentration camp when we're exterminating people and put them in, the gulags must be fitted with proper amenities, with, clean, sterilized guillotine blades. Otherwise, they're just going to go out, people are just going to, the Red Guard are just going to go out and shoot people in the back of the head. I mean, and probably end up getting killed, injured by shrapnel and things like that. It's diverting from the actual point. What good will it actually help to do this? Has it actually reduced the number of abortions? What would you say if you were the child conceived? You see, this is what you always ask these people. If you were the child conceived, what would you say? Because you can't actually say anything, can you? You have no voice. You have fewer rights than a non-human animal. You are an object which can be disposed of at the whim of the parents, usually the mother, but sometimes both parents. And the only reason these people like you are saying things like this is because your parents chose not to do that to you and to allow you to live. Jack Parker says, I stand against abortion and putting animals down. Animal euthanasia is, I think it's sometimes necessary because you can't actually, unlike a human, you can't actually explain to a dog or a cat or another animal why it's ill and suffering and in pain. You see, medicine is about informed consent. Humans can give informed consent. Interesting, you cannot, if a human refuses treatment, again, the doctor can do nothing to force them. This is why what I said earlier about the Nuremberg Code and the V word. The V word essentially is breaking the Hippocratic Oath, because people are essentially being coerced into having this medical treatment. You can't say to a dog, if a dog is in pain and a dog can't walk, or a dog is suffering and has any kind of disease that's causing a continuous suffering, you can't say to him or her, look, this is what's wrong. What do you think? What do you want? It is sometimes kinder to end there. If there's no hope of recovery, it's sometimes kinder to end their existence there. Now, a baby is different, and unless there are exceptions, for example, where, like of ectopic pregnancy, because an ectopic pregnancy is doomed. So that would be a similar situation, I think. But you can't do that to a baby. A baby, for example, cannot give consent in the same way that a dog or cat can't. The difference is the baby will do. The baby potentially could become a human, could become a fully compos mentis human being, has that potential. And the only thing that separates them from one state to the other is a few years and a few billion cells. Same video, Jack Parker. Ironically, the acceptable is quite barbaric with humanity on many levels. I know. In regards to animals, nature gives them a natural resiliency, a buffer for suffering and pain, somewhat of an organic biological morphine equivalent. Let us think about endorphins and dopamine reaction. Which species are you talking about, Jack? Because I've heard stories about, rabbits will, if they lose a leg, they'll keep running on 3 legs and things like that. But, I mean, humans have that to a certain extent through adrenaline and endorphins, like you said. But on a long-term level, I mean, is their natural resiliency any different from a human's? I don't know. Jack Parker on the same video. Pain serves a purpose, possibly a struggling, desperate consolation. The fetus has no need for pain. Fight or flight cannot be an option on a natural scenario. Thus, much buffering is in play. Until possibility of escape is in the biological mix, a struggling theory. Jack, I'm sorry, I don't understand that. I'm sorry. I'll go on to your next comment. Possibly the best defense takes the least energy. Inundation information to those who are complacent about frivolously throwing away life. Inundation information to those who are complacent about frivolously throwing away life. Even more precious life related to them. They are myopically handicapped with the reality of their act. I think you mean like talking about their inundation of information or complacent amount of frivolity of throwing away life refers to people who just say, oh, I'll have an abortion because I fancy it or something. They very often don't know anything about it. They're usually under general anaesthetic. It could be a later term abortion where there's an actual body that needs to be disposed of. Very often they don't see what's involved in that. Yeah. Limespec says on March for Life, we disagree on much, but I'm with you on this issue. Cheers, Limespecs. Let's just check something. Okay, right, just a sec. So I was just busy doing something else. I've got something else going on. It's to do with editing, don't worry. Jack Parker says, maybe someday more kids proclaiming my mother is my father's child. Maybe someday more kids walking proclaiming my mother is my father's child, and I'm no different than you. Oh, you're referring to incest here, yeah. Or my father raped my mother who died giving birth from lingering effects or injuries during the rape. And we can say with a smile, pleased to meet you, realise that wasn't your fault. Well, it's not, you see. The child is the innocent party, and human rights should not be determined on origins. Rainwater says on the March for Life, you haven't had a girlfriend for 30 years. I have, actually. And he was thinking you have the right to tell a woman what to do with her body. I'm not telling a woman what right she has to do with her body. I'm telling everybody that's a person's body has. I'm telling that a person's body, everyone has the right to what to do with their body. This includes people who are too young to decide, as in unborn babies. You tick so many boxes for a far-right weirdo. You're like a cliche. Pro-Brexit, tick. Rabidly pro-Trump, tick. Believe the US election was stolen, tick. Anti-woman's right to choose, tick. Bald, tick. I don't know where the bald thing comes from. You're correct about the other things. As for the woman's, you know what I think. I think the phrase "a woman's right to choose" is a piece of propaganda. It's not giving choice to people what to do with their own bodies. It's taking it away. It's saying to an unborn child, you don't have the right even to exist if we choose to dispose of you, just to kill you before you have a chance to have any life. Yeah, but I don't see that. I don't see why these things make me what you call a far-right weirdo. I don't actually know what is a far-right weirdo. You could just, if you describe it to me in more detail, I'll answer yes or no. Jack Parker says on March for Life, don't, because that is the truth. We should be able to accept these young people, and that is the discussion, a large part of it, the comfort zone problem. I don't know what you mean, sorry. Goonlove says on March for Life, hey Ben, you sighed to me like you've got asthma. Did I? I don't think I do. I don't have asthma, I don't think, but still. Jack Parker, March for Life. I think we're on the same page religiously, Ben. This pronunciation of reasoning will tend to turn a deaf ear to the discussion. They must back away from religious fervour and distraction. Well, I think I didn't actually hear much in the way of religious language in this event. Certainly, the conference before the march, there was no praying. There was no praying or anything while I was in there. There were several people. One woman referred to the babies she had in heaven when she referred to the babies that she had aborted. But apart from that, there was no. All the rest of it was very secular. It referred to it as a purely secular human rights issue, which it is. March for Life. Possibly those leaflets and more should be imposed upon the eyes of somewhat of a graffiti mission. I don't know if it would be productive or counterproductive. You're talking about, they do have some graphic pictures of what happens to babies during abortion, which I don't like to think about, quite frankly. Whether it would work or whether it would be counterproductive, I don't know. I know placards and banners with graphic pictures were banned from the march. Jack Parker. That graffiti mission, of course, must, short of blowing up abortion clinics, And actually, the latter is not an option in the name of humanity as well. No, you don't. We mustn't do the any terrorist action. I'm totally against. Totally against. The killing people. It's things like we've got to stay within the law. We've got to stay rational. We've got to stay ethical. I don't think you're going to. It's not only it's unfair. It's not only wrong. It's counterproductive to use violence. Reef 2 says, I used to like you, Ben, and I've enjoyed watching you on the Kev Baker show. Once you start espousing your personal views on shit like abortion, religion, and politics, you not only lose me, but no doubt a legion of fans, mate. P.S. No fucking man has any right to comment on abortion. Not our bodies, not our decision, not our business. All right. This is a comment. This is not original. I say underneath, what do you know what ad hominem fallacy means? I actually addressed this in the video which you commented on. Firstly, everyone has a right to comment on abortion. This is the point they made in the video. If someone says you can't comment on a certain subject because, and I get this all the time. I've been told I have no right to talk about Brexit because, and they'll come up with some reason that one woman said you've got no right to comment on Brexit because you've never run a business. And I thought, what's that got to do with it? I suggest you look up what ad hominem fallacy means. Not our bodies, not our decision, not our business. It is our bodies. It's all our bodies because all of us start off as embryos. Most of us are at an age and live in a country in which abortion is legal. Termination of pregnancy can be done. It's almost no fault. You don't even need really a reason. You just have to say, I want to get rid of this baby, and they'll do it. That means you. And you say, well, it doesn't mean me because I'm not a baby. No, but you were. We all were. That's the point. It's only time that separates us from one state to the other. It makes you. Do you know how lucky you are to be alive? Charles Scott says on March for Life, to clarify, as I want to be certain, I have not misunderstood. Are you saying to no to abortion at conception, or how many days after conception abortion should not be allowed? What is your reason for this? And if you were born female, do you think your answer would be different? The answer is I actually say in the video, Charles, yes, I do. I say from conception. And for the reasons I explain, I talk about cut-off points and things like that. It's all in the video, Charles. So watch it again if you missed it the first time. If I was born female, would my answer be different? I've got no idea. BZ Garson says, underneath to Charles, pro-life's mantra is life from conception and no exception. So as soon as the sperm buries itself in the egg. Yeah, because that is literally when the potential human is created. It's nothing to do with religion. It's a secular human rights issue. Charles underneath says, yes, I thought that, thanks. I have Charles, it's in the video. Did you watch the whole video? And I have my own opinion on this matter, which I may keep to myself. Just want confirmation from Ben on his opinion before I can draw any personal conclusions about Ben. Sure, Charles, but feel free to say it if you want. Rosh says, great to see you're pro-life too. Sounds so silly, but it's actually sad. It's not normal. I know what you mean. It's something I haven't really talked about in detail before. This is the first time I've actually really discussed my feelings on this. Goonlove, ha, funny. Oh, this is on Illuminati Speaks, Prince William and Kate Middleton. Oh, this is my really old. I'm glad you like that, Goonlove. This is a really old video. This is Gareth Davis Memorial live streams. Ed Kaler. Who's Sandra? Can I have a link? Oh, I got her name wrong. Sorry, it's Karen. It's a lady who lives locally. Would you be interested in some books? I'll ask her about that. I'll ask her if. I don't know if it's too late now because it's a few weeks ago now. She doesn't have really. I don't want to. She may not want me to publish her identity, but I can ask about the books. Ed Kaler says, great stream. R.I.P. Gareth. Thanks, Ed. Thanks a lot. Oh, I don't need to put a notice. March for Life, Hugo Rune says here. I have no problems with your personal sentiments on this subject. I agree with you, but religion, Christianity in any form, utter shite. You are born, you live, you die. There's no heaven, afterlife, nirvana, whatever. You are born, you live, you pass your genes on, and you die. There's nothing more. As soon as I hear Alleluia, I'm put off. Okay, I'll just I did put a text comment in, but I'll just say differently. I'll just say what I actually felt about this. It's not my kind of thing either, although I did say that I recited the Hail Mary, and it gave me strange feelings, I must say. I think you're wrong about the heaven afterlife nirvana thing. There is such a thing, for reasons I've explained. I mean, I do recommend watch my Afterlife Stefan Molyneux video. That's a good one. But I'm not the person who goes around singing Hallelujah. But I do. And indeed, when the rally started in Parliament Square, there was a lot of religious singing and things. I didn't stay for that. But I wouldn't call myself an atheist. I'm not an atheist. And March for Life, Hugo Rune says, wow, 52 minutes onwards, you mentioned mumbo jumbo and illogical. Yes, that is Christianity, please. Why was Jesus not reborn a few times over the centuries? I have no problems with your anti-abortion stance, well done. That is the point of this video, but religion, in this case Christianity, sorry, mumbo jumbo and illogical. And Hugo Rune says this here, oh, nice one, Ben, 56 minutes onward, you expressed doubt. So now I feel guilty for my earlier comments. Keep it up. Nice one, pal. Oh, not to worry, Hugo. Honestly, don't worry about it if you feel. You don't have to feel that way. You could just keep making comments and adjust them. That's actually fine. March for Life, David Smith says, against abortion? Human rights for those not yet born? But if they happen to come out of a vagina in a poor country, they better stay there. Their human rights be damned. Not at all hypocritical. You mean being born? They're born in a poor country. What they better? Oh, you're referring to the immigration thing. Well, why are countries poor, David? You just assume they're poor. In fact, the left need poverty. You know, there's loads of reports of people, Labour officials saying, no, we can't allow. For example, you know why the Labour opposed people buying their council houses? Because they said, well, these people will become too prosperous and they'll stop voting Labour. So I don't like the idea there are poor countries. All right, that's what I don't like. But as I've explained before, it's not going to help anyone by then moving them out of those countries into other countries. It's going to damage the countries they move to. We know all about that's the most common objection. It's also going to damage the countries they leave behind, and it's going to damage themselves. Okay, here we go. Now we have BZ Garson. All right. There we go. Right. Oh, this is a long comment here. It's a long comment. I actually cut and pasted this one because I thought you might delete it. BZ Garson, March for Life. I'm not comfortable with some aspects of abortion. Let's just check how much time I've got left on this hour. 8 minutes. I might have to change this between things. But when it comes down to it, I'm pro-choice. I believe that nobody should tell a woman what to do with their womb. And that applies to men and women. But no one's telling a woman what to do with her womb, BZ. Someone's telling a person who, through biological necessity, produces the child, carries the child for 9 months and then gives birth to it, that she has an obligation to honour the human rights of the child within her. It's not her womb, it's a baby. It's a baby that eventually will become a human being, if hopefully, if allowed. The decision should be a mutual one between the woman and her doctors. Well, would you be happy with that? Okay, BZ, you go. Let's just try a little thought experiment. If you imagine you could go back in time, right? Go back now to before you were born. Your little baby in a womb. You have no way of communicating. You're just a few weeks from after conception. Supposing someone asked you for your opinion then, not knowing what would happen next, would you say, oh, it's okay, Mum, talk it over with your doctor and kill me if you want? Would you honestly say that? You've got to answer that. He carries on. I can't get my head around Ben saying he would preach his morals to a woman's face who was considering abortion, whatever the circumstances of the conception. Yeah, well, do you know how often I get morals preached in my face? It happens all. This is all very one-sided. A white male is expected to sit there with his ears open and sit in silence with his head bowed in shame while people talk continuously at him in this way. Yet if ever that happens to someone else, it's, oh my God, what about you? You know, it's how could you do this? Okay, would he confront the following? Me said, a child who is pregnant through abuse, rape, or incest. A child who was already traumatized beyond imagination. A woman, if forced to carry to full term, could medically put her life in danger. A woman who was gang raped and forced to carry to full term. A fetus identified medically as having such a traumatic and untreatable medical condition that their life, even if they managed to survive the birth, would be one of purgatory. Okay, let's go through these one by one. On the case of the children, are you actually saying that you know that giving that child a termination under those circumstances would be better for them? Are you sure about that? Have you got psychological data saying that? I know someone who's been through this. There were people at the March for Life who'd been through this and said themselves that it was the worst. They essentially bitterly regret what happened to them. They bitterly regret it. So yes, I would. As for the now, when it comes to a woman forcing a woman to carry a baby to full term when it will kill her, for example, an ectopic pregnancy, I've already dealt with that. Obviously, you would have to terminate that simply because that would be like the ultimate dilemma. But what could you do? Because the baby itself would die. If the mother dies, the baby dies anyway. So what can you do? And as for fetus identified with having a traumatic, untreatable medical condition, their life, even if they managed to survive the birth, would be one of purgatory. Well, BZ, can I suggest you go up to a person, for example, a person who has, for example, I think you may be referring possibly to a thalidomide birth, or something like that's an example of a birth defect, not hereditary, a congenital birth defect. That's what you're referring to, even one which causes pain and suffering. I should just go up to them and ask them, just say, are you pleased that your parents didn't abort you, didn't terminate your pregnancy, and see what they say. And come back to me afterwards and let me know what answers you get. If one of them says, I'd much rather they just simply terminated me, then maybe you've proved your point. But see what they say. Saying it on video is one thing. Actually confronting someone in the real world face to face is another thing completely. Oh, right, well, and he says, I really don't think he's got the courage of his convictions. Well, you're actually right about confronting people in real life is different than theorising about it online. You're actually right, which is why I wanted to confront Team Droik, didn't I? I can easily arrange for him to meet several victims of horrific sexual abuse who terminated their pregnancies. The offer is there. Let's see if he takes me up on it. Sure. I could introduce you to people who, if we're gonna play this tit for tat thing, BZ, I could introduce you to people also, often young girls and things like the very people who've been in the situation you said, who did have a termination and they regretted it, and they were very, very resentful of people who try to moral blackmail the situation in this way, who try and this is an example of steamrollering. Do you want to meet some of them? If you are so pro-life, surely this extends to the death penalty and euthanasia. If life is so sacrosanct to you, surely you oppose them as well. Consistency of principles. Death penalty, yes. Euthanasia is different. Euthanasia is an adult choosing to die. That's very different to a baby. Death penalty, yeah, I'm against the death penalty. Although, good knows, there's some that deserve it. There really is. But no, I'm against it. This channel has become increasingly political, namely far right. Could you define far right for me? If you define exactly what far right means, then I will answer yes or no. But to me, the term far right is generally just used as a label for somebody evil. Anyone to the left on this position is branded some whinging lefty by Mr. BEJ, frequently in a childish, mocking voice. No individual specifically, but this is how, I'm just annoyed that they do this to us and get away with it, and I can't do that to them. I wonder how much he's been influenced by the new abortion legislation in Texas, offering $10,000 bounties to civilians to dob doctors in if they're expected of carrying out abortions on women after 6 weeks from conception. I think it's the wrong way to go about it, because it's essentially setting up a situation where encouraging civil lawsuits. I think that's the wrong way to go about it. You wouldn't do that for murder, would you? So, for example, why are they doing it for this? I think I'm in favour of the fact that they want to make a stand for human life, for human rights, yes. However, I think legally they're going about it the wrong way. That's the only way that twisted law can work, given the ruling by the Supreme Court. Oh yeah, Roe versus Wade, I know. State judiciary can take no direct action against doctors, only if a citizen is suspects it. Fucking scary. Yeah, I mean, the ideal thing is to address the Roe versus Wade thing, rather than just find loopholes. So, I mean, I know you take a different view on this from me, but I think that's right. It seems he's hitched his latest wagon, pro-life, to the ever-increasing far right-wing motifs. Trump. He's given us this list now. Your predictions of his comeback are now bordering on the lunatic. Well, no, I'm not setting any more dates on it now. QAnon, yep. Cultural Marxism, yep. Anti-wokeness, yep. This is such a hackneyed trope that it's become meaningless. No, other way round. It's wokeism itself that's become hackneyed and meaningless. Just throwing the, evil white male label at everything you don't like. That's hackneyed. That's meaningless. Anti-V word, anti-mask, cultural genocide, Putin's... yes, what is cultural genocide? You may have seen my video, I'm not a Welsh nationalist. Maybe you should watch that. Putin is a good guy and just a bit misunderstood. Yeah, well, I don't think he's doing the globalist work. I think he is essentially a Russian nationalist. He's not on our side yet, but he's not doing what the bad guys are telling him. And a sprinkling of misogyny. Where's the right, if you're going to use words like misogyny, you need to explain. Simply pointing to my women in ufology video is not good enough. All right, hour number 3 coming up.